What's up, everybody? This is Jacob, the Sports King, coming back for the post New Year's Day, I guess it is now, bowl games. It was used to be the New Year's Day bowl games, but they've pushed that back this year, and it keeps getting later and later. But it's mainly due to the fact that the NFL is taking place on New Year's Day this year, and you don't want to have competition against the NFL because you're going to lose. Which is, obvious for a lot of sports fans to know that you don't want to compete with the NFL because you're going to lose. But starting off with New Year's Day games, or I guess it's January 2nd now, day games through, I went up to January 6th, I believe, for this video. But I did get all my calculations up to how my previous picks have done in the bowl games. Straight up, I'm very good at 14-5 right now, with a couple of exceptions to games like Georgia Tech, which I really thought was going to beat Utah. And last I saw the score, it was 24-10 before I had to go into work. And I don't know what happened in the rest of that game, to be honest. I haven't really got to catch much of it yet, but I'm really curious to what happened in that game because I had a lot of confidence in Georgia Tech, and they kind of let that one slip away. But, so I was a little disappointed in them, but whatever, I guess. It is what it is. But yeah, straight up 14-5, in the bowl games, taking out the first week because I didn't do predictions on the first week. And against the spread, I've had a couple of hits lately that have kind of set me back a little bit, but I'm still 11-8, which is 3 games above 500, but it should be a lot more. Mississippi State ended up winning by 6, and I took them -6.5. I took Iowa to cover the 14, and they lost by 17. So a lot of pretty good lines that have been coming out in these games, and they've been pretty close. But with that said, a few of the games have been, a point or two here and there. I've also been on the winning end of a couple of those. I took Baylor -9.5, and they won by 11. So there's been a couple of pretty good lines here so far. They've been doing a good job down there in setting the lines for these games. But the first game I'm going to get into is Houston and Penn State. It takes place January 2nd. I believe it's the Ticket City Bowl, which I haven't really heard of. Must be a newer bowl. But Ticket City Bowl, Houston, Penn State. Houston ranks first in points for with 50.8 points per game, which is just a ton. And Penn State offensively ranks 110th, averaging 19.8. Houston's defense isn't all that bad either, though. They've only given up 23 points a game, and Penn State's got a pretty good defense, only given up 15.7 points per game, which is 5th in the country. But in this game, I think that I'm going to take Houston here at -6.5. I'm going to take them to win the game too. I know that their head coach just took a coaching job at Texas A&M. Now, I'm not positive if he's going to coach in this game, but whether he does or not, I still like Houston. Houston will throw the ball probably 50 times in this game. They like to throw the ball a lot. Not much of a running team. Kind of reminds you of the Packers, but teams have proven that you don't need to really run the ball to be successful. As of late, in a lot of football games, pro and NFL, really, with the Packers and teams like Houston and Oklahoma State, who can just throw it and just throw it down your throat. They're just going to keep throwing it until you stop them. But I'm going to take Houston here, -6.5, and straight up to beat Penn State. Penn State just had a lot of people know about the Jerry Sandusky scandal and stuff, and they just have a lot of negative vibes around that team. And they lost Joe Paterno, who was one of the greatest coaches of all time, if not the greatest. It was kind of disappointing to see that all fall out the way that it did, but I'm going to take Houston. Um, Michigan State and Georgia. Now, I think this is one of the best games. Um, I don't think it'll be a shootout, and I don't think it'll be low scoring. I think it'll just be an average type game, but I think it'll be a really good game. Really, two very evenly matched teams. Michigan State ranks 37th offensively, averaging 30.8 points per game. Georgia averages 32.2 points per game, which is 34th in the country. Defensively, they're both still pretty good too, though. So Michigan State averages to give up 17.5 points per game, which is 9th in the country, and Georgia's 10th, averaging 19.6. So they're pretty much even across the board. Michigan State had a really good win over Wisconsin. It was kind of a lucky last play type thing, which really kind of boosted them. But I like Georgia in this game. Georgia's just been playing really, really good lately. They didn't look too good in the SEC championship game against LSU, but I really think Georgia will bounce back. I think this game will remain in the 20s, and I think it'll be really close. Probably looking at about a field goal winner for each side, or maybe 4 or 5 points. But I don't really think it'll be a blowout either way. And I think the SEC is a lot better than the Big Ten, which is, I don't even have to give reasoning for that. People know that the SEC is better. So I'm going to take the SEC team here and take Georgia -3. I'm going to take them straight up to win too. Nebraska against South Carolina. Now, both of these teams in the preseason rankings were a lot higher than what they are now. South Carolina only had 2 losses, and Nebraska had 3. Nebraska's 41st offensively, averaging 31 points per game. South Carolina's 43rd, averaging 30 points per game. And their defenses are almost even too. Nebraska gives up 22.8 points per game, which is 39th in the country. And SC only averages to give up 19, which is 43rd in the country. So it's almost another mirror image type game. And I think the BCS kind of set that up to where they wanted close games. You don't see a lot of teams with like a super good offense playing a team with a really good defense. It just hasn't really matched up that way really too often, with the exception of Penn State and Houston. So I think the BCS really tried to set those games up to where they look really good on paper, and this one does too. But South Carolina at -2.5 is going to be my selection here. They've both. I just like South Carolina's defense better. I like Lattimore. I like Alshon Jeffrey, Garcia. They just seem like they have a lot more. I was really high on Nebraska at the beginning of the year. I was also really high on South Carolina, and they both kind of had disappointing seasons in my eyes. I really thought South Carolina could potentially compete or be in the top 10 for most of the year. I think they sit at 20th now, or around that range. The next game is Ohio State against Florida. Now this is another Big Ten SEC matchup, and this one I like the Big Ten. I'm just really high on Braxton Miller as a quarterback for the Buckeyes. I think the Buckeyes have played pretty good, but a lot of the stuff on paper favors Florida a little bit each way, but I really think Ohio State's going to win this game, and I really am pretty confident in it too. It's one of my picks, like Georgia Tech, who I also thought was a really confident pick, which looked good for at least 3/4 of the game that I saw, and then they must have broke down in the 4th quarter because they ended up losing that game. And Florida, I didn't really catch much of Florida this year, but I don't really like Florida this year. I just think Ohio State has better options. So I'm going to take the Big Ten in this one to straight up to win the game, and I'm going to take the 2.5 points that I'll be getting to. Wisconsin and Oregon. Originally, I liked Oregon in this game, but after looking at the stats, Wisconsin's they're pretty damn good. They're fifth offensively, averaging 45 points per game, sixth defensively, giving up 17.0. Oregon also has a great offense, as many of you know, with Michael James and Darren Thomas. But they're third in the country, so they're pretty much the same offensively, and Wisconsin has a lot better defense. Do I think Wisconsin will be able to stop them? No. But for a line to be -6, I really have to take Wisconsin getting those 6 points because I think it'll be a close game and it'll be 10 points. Another exciting game to watch. Will be a good Rose Bowl. So I'm going to take Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's going to win the game too, now that I look at it. So I'm going to take Wisconsin there. It's my least confident pick in one of the entire games of the bowls, but Oklahoma State and Stanford, this is another really tough game to call if you look at it on paper. Stanford has a pretty decent defense, only 23rd in the country, only giving up 20 points per game, 7th in offense with Andrew Luck and those tight ends that he throws to, 7th in the country, averaging 43.6 points per game. Okie State is 2nd in the country, scoring 45 points per game, 61st though in defense, averaging to give up quite a bit of points. So you're looking at another shootout type game here. Should be exciting. I'm gonna go Oklahoma State based on the fact that I think there'll be a lot of debating who is the national championship if Alabama beats LSU, and Oklahoma State could be in that talk. And I don't know. Whedon's not bad, but I'm not as high on him as a lot of these other people are. I'm really high on Justin Blackman, which, if you look at his stats, there's no reason not to be. But I'm going to take Oklahoma State in this one. Very little confidence, -4, just because I think they're a better team. But in shootout type games, Stanford has struggled a little bit. They got crushed by Oregon by about I think it was like 58-30 or 56-30. And so I'm gonna go with Oklahoma State. Just essentially saying that they're going to outscore Stanford. I don't think it'll be low scoring. I think you're looking at both teams in the 30s plus. So that's my selection, -4, and I'm going to take them straight up to 1-2. Michigan and Virginia Tech. No, I really like Michigan in this game. They're 22nd offensively. The only thing that sucks about Michigan is Denard Robinson is turnover prone, but he's the most exciting player on the field, hands down. But Michigan also has a good defense. They're 7th in the country, which I thought was kind of surprising, knowing the style that they play. They like to score a lot, but they do have a pretty good defense as well, only giving up 17 points per game. Virginia Tech, however, ranks 52nd offensively and only given 28 points per game. And Virginia Tech defensively is 8th in the country, giving up 17.2. So, Michigan is my pick basically because the defenses are a wash and Michigan's got a better offense. I think the Big Ten's better than the ACC. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. But Michigan, not very confidently, but -3 is my selection. I'm going to take them to win the game too. Clemson and West Virginia. West Virginia is not as good as a lot of people think. They're 20th offensively, which is scoring 35 points per game, which is pretty good. 63rd defensively, though, averaging 27 points allowed per game. Clemson ranks a little bit below them offensively at 24th, scoring 34 points per game, and 62nd defensively, averaging 26.2. So this is another game where you're looking at, you know, high 20s, low 30s type scoring for both teams. I'm really high on Taj Boyd as quarterback for Clemson. I was really high on them at the beginning of the year. They kind of had a slip up 3/4 of the way into the season, lost a few games, but I definitely think Clemson's better than West Virginia. I think Clemson's a really trendy pick here. I think a lot of people will be picking Clemson. I'm going to too, pretty confidently at -3. I'm going to take them straight up to win the game. Thank you guys for coming back to check out some of my videos. I've almost cracked the 1,000 views mark, right on the borderline, averaging around 250 to 280 views per video, and I'm up to 6 subscribers, which is pretty good. I appreciate you guys for doing that. But good luck and Happy New Year. God bless.